Cheers, you want a treat? This is my dog, Maisie. Anyway. Hi everyone, this is Michaela, and why am I so low? I don't know. So the main purpose of this video is basically to go through the college application tips that I did to get into UChicago, and hopefully this will be helpful for all the rising juniors and seniors who are going into that process this year. First of all, I want to start with stats. I'm not going to say my own because I feel like that's not as relevant when there's really stats all over the internet that say what you need to get into certain schools. But I will give advice on what I did for my own scores, and that is to study a lot for the SAT. Also, in terms of stats, so one of the biggest things that was helpful for me was actually taking the ACT, because my score was better for the ACT than it was for the SAT if you look at like the conversions between the two scores. So if you have like the financial capability to do both tests, then you definitely should, because one might work better for you than the other. So that's always a good idea if you want to have the best chance possible of getting good stats for college. Okay, you want to get down, don't you? Sorry, baby. Oh gosh, I'm tipping. Okay. Another thing is to retake the test if you can, because if you don't get the score that you want and it's not good enough for your dream school, you can... My dog is scraping at the floor in the background. I don't know what she's doing. But you can always retake the tests too if you don't get the score that you like, and that's really important too. Being aware that you can retake it, because if you don't get the right score the first time, it's okay, you can always do it again. But another thing that's really important is GPA. I cannot stress this enough that doing your homework and working hard on your high school work really matters. If you apply to a school and you're above average with GPA, that's telling the school that you're going to be a good worker there and they're going to want to accept you. Also, your GPA directly influences your rank, and I don't actually know how much admissions committees weigh the rank, but the higher your rank, the better you're going to look for your applications. It's just going to work out that way. Talk to your teachers, always do extra credit if it's available, even if you get like a 98 on something. If you have a way to get those last 2 points to get a 100, do it, because it's going to help you. Colleges want to see that you're challenging yourself, so if you're at your high school taking courses that are just average and not the most difficult ones possible, colleges aren't going to like that. So I took, my school offered the International Baccalaureate program, and I actually, going into junior year, I debated whether or not I wanted to do the full program. I was vacillating between just doing a couple courses and doing the whole thing, because the whole thing just sounded intense, but honestly, I'm so glad I did, because I don't know if I would have gotten into the schools that I did without that. In the end, it's very critical for how you're perceived by the school. If you take all of the challenging courses that you can, you're showing the college that you want to put yourself out there, you want to be a learner. So whether it's AP, IB, or just honors, take those courses. Don't go the easy route. It's going to be worth it. Extracurriculars are another part of college applications. For myself, I don't know exactly how many I had, but I like to focus on like one or two, prioritize those extracurriculars, and then kind of just have the rest to make a more well-rounded application, if that makes sense. So for me, I need to check my list. I really focused on violin and drama club for my two extracurriculars, but then I also talked a little bit about being an NHS, community service club, track and field, journalism club, and then also I was class secretary and I volunteered weekly at the animal shelter. So between all these, I don't know if you'll notice, but there's kind of a different tracks on. There's athletics, there's arts, community service, also leadership as class secretary. So if you can get in as many of those categories as possible, that's going to help you get into your dream school. Being well-rounded is really good. I mean, unless you're like a professional Olympian athlete or the best teenage pianist in the nation, you've got to be well-rounded, because it's hard to become a professional in one thing. So if you can't be a professional in one thing, become very well-rounded in several things. This is a thing that a lot of kids put off because it's daunting and they just procrastinate it until they don't have the time to do it, and then they don't end up applying to as many colleges as they would have liked to in the beginning. So my advice to you is to do those during the summer, or you're going to regret it. You're going to be focused on your schoolwork during the school year, and you're not going to have as much time to do your essays. So if you do them in the summer, you'll get them out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about them while you're also trying to do your homework. So there's two types of essays. One is the personal essay, which you basically send out to all of the colleges. That is if you're doing Common App. I did the Common Application, so I'm assuming this applies to all. But anyway, there's the personal essay. Then there's the little essays, which many people think aren't as important, but you should still spend just as much time on them. Because even though they're short, they say a lot about you in that one paragraph. So take your time with them because there's a lot. Don't just copy and paste one essay to the next. Tailor each one specifically to the school that you're applying to so that you have that demonstrated interest, which is another very important thing. Demonstrated interest. If you can prove that you really do like that school, colleges are going to like you for that. Because there are a lot of students who just apply to schools without having any reason to apply to them. So if you demonstrate that you know anything about the school, whether it's clubs or the residents' life or the sports there, the majors, the programs, if you have demonstrated interest, the colleges are going to recognize that. So basically take your time with the essays, edit them a lot, have someone peer edit them, just go over them until, I mean, you want it to be your voice, you want it to be original, you also want it to be grammatically correct. They've just got to be really good. My personal essay was about how a fictional character inspired me to do something, and I was able to go into a hobby of mine, playing the violin, while also kind of informing the college about, all the colleges about my love for reading and how I've been like, how I've had, not character development, personal development, I don't know, but anyway, I've had development through my life because of these role models. It sounds kind of weird explaining it now, I guess, but that's what I did for my personal essay. So focusing on these things is what I did when I was applying to all my schools. And if you focus on all these too and make them as perfect as they can get, then you have a really good shot of getting into your dream school. To recap, make sure that you're working on your stats. I know that like you can't control or predict what you're going to get, but as long as you try your hardest, that's all you can do. And so shoot for that if you can. Shoot for your best with stats. GPA, work hard. It's exhausting, but work hard. Get as high of a GPA as you can because then you're going to get a better rank. It's just all going to make everything easier. Take the hardest courses possible at your school. Don't be scared by them. Just do it. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to show that you want to learn. Focus on your extracurriculars. Focus on one or two that you are really passionate about, but then don't forget to round yourself out and do some other stuff. Don't only do one extracurricular because that's not going to make you look very well rounded. And then lastly, pay attention to your essays and spend a lot of time on them. So I hope this gives a little bit of insight as to how I got into UChicago and what I did to get into that school, and I really hope that this helps you with your applications, and best of luck to everyone who's applying to college.